Time for the main race of the season opener for the Supercar Challenge. Welcome everyone to your live coverage. Here's what we have coming up this season. Visits to Zandvoort here, Assen, Zolder, Spa and Hockenheim back on the calendar, once again replacing Silverstone this season. A championship that has been going since 2001, taking into a new era under the guidance of Max Brams this year. Live coverage coming to you over the course of the season by Alpha Live. Here's the circuit they are racing on today. I'm sure very familiar to all of you. The Zandvoort circuit hasn't changed much since you would have last seen it, but one thing that never changes is the elevation there, also the challenges of the circuit as well, particularly in these GT3, GT4 cars. It is one that really demands the drivers and punishes the tyres as well, which is going to be a big factor in this 60-minute race. My name's Chris McCarthy. A real pleasure to have your company. It's been thoroughly entertaining watching both the Supercars and the Mazda MX-5 Cup this weekend. If you watched race 3 of the Mazda MX-5 Cup, you'll know what I mean. If you haven't, do go and watch it. But it's full focus now on Supercars, and down on the grid for us, as he has been all weekend, is René.
En zo is dat. We maken ons op voor het slotstuk van deze racedag. Het slotstuk van dit openingsweekend, de V-Max Voorjaarsraces. En ik sta naast de polezitter Marlon Beurtzal in de prachtige Koopman Racing BMW M6 GT3. Marlon, beste uitgangspositie voor jou. Een groot publiek hier, een geweldig evenement, een goede sfeer. Wat verwacht jij voor deze laatste wedstrijd?
Ik ga zeker weten mijn best doen om zo snel mogelijk te kunnen rijden. We staan in de beste positie op dit moment. Dus een clean wedstrijd met gewoon consistent laps. Ik denk dat het wel te doen is, maar ik ga mijn best doen.
Je hebt Mitchell van Dijk met de Radical naast je dit keer. Hij heeft ervoor gekozen om naast jou op de eerste startrij te staan. Hij mocht zelf kiezen of hij achter of tussen de GT's wilde staan. Hoe gaat dat met de acceleratie naar de Tarzanbocht?
We gaan het zien. Ik ben benieuwd. Ik denk dat de GT3's misschien iets sneller zijn op het rechte stuk. Maar we gaan het zien. Gewoon een clean turn 1 zou mooi zijn, maar ik ga mijn best doen.
Heel goed, dankjewel. Marlon Beurtzal. En dan gaan we ook nog even praten met de rijder hier in de Radical, die ook op de eerste startrij staat. Een kort gesprekje nog. Ja. Wat verwacht je voor deze wedstrijd? Hoe wordt het sprintduel naar de Tarzanbocht met die dikke M6 naast je?
Ja, ik ga proberen zoveel mogelijk posities te houden. Wordt lastig met minder pk. Maar net zoals vorige race, als de wedstrijd vordert, gewoon weer posities terugpakken als ik die verlies. En het wordt lastig. Iedereen hier heeft bandenwarmers om me heen, ik niet. Dus ik heb een beetje koude banden. Wordt nog oppassen, maar we gaan het beste ervan maken.
Heel goed, dankjewel. Geniet ervan. Mitchell van Dijk in de Radical, de Zoet Racing Radical. Dan gaan we een beetje verder naar achter, terwijl er inmiddels al wordt afgeteld. Dus heel veel tijd hebben we niet meer. We zien hier de prachtige Markels LM600 van Cor Euser, genaamd La Bomba. De laatste check wordt uitgevoerd. Cor Euser, een klein probleempje in de kwalificatie, maar mooi om de auto hier toch te zien. Daan Meijer, de Koopman Racing BMW, die gisteren veel problemen had, liep niet op 8 cilinders. Alle bobines en bougies werden vervangen en vandaag loopt hij keurig zoals het moet. Dus goede verwachtingen voor hem. Hier de auto van Kees Wijsman, ook uit de Koopmanstal. Dan zien we hier natuurlijk de prachtige donkerblauwe auto hier van Wijsman. En dan zien we hier de BMW Artcar van Barry van Elk, de Meckler auto van Blueberry Racing. Barry van Elk natuurlijk een van de grote en vaste waarden in de Supercar Challenge. En dat ook voor het seizoen 2026 wederom van de partij. Lopen we een klein beetje verder op de grid. We hebben hier een van de tourwagens uit de TCR-klasse. De nog relatief nieuwe Hyundai van Dennis en Stef de Borst, het Febo Racing Team. Even een kort gesprekje met Stef. Stef, goede première voor jullie hier. We hadden natuurlijk al de nieuwjaarsrace, de Febo nieuwjaarsrace, maar nu hier de eerste echte Supercar Challenge race. Wat voor verwachtingen heb jij voor vanmiddag?
Voor vanmiddag een goede uitgangspositie. Met de kwalificatie op pole kunnen zetten. Met de setup bezig geweest vanochtend, daar veel tijd aan besteed. En voor mij komen we goed voor de dag nu, dus we gaan er het best van maken.
Heel goed, dankjewel. Terwijl het 3 minuten signaal inmiddels is gegeven. Je vader zit in de auto en die steekt zijn duim omhoog. Die heeft er absoluut zin in. Dennis en Stef de Borst, het Febo Racing Team met de Hyundai. En mooi om zulke teams ook hier te hebben. Het zijn niet alleen de GT's, het zijn ook de tourwagens, de TCR-tourwagens. We hebben Renault Clio's hier in het veld, we hebben BMW M2's in het veld. En het is juist die mix die de Supercar Challenge zo fantastisch en zo spannend en zo afwisselend en spectaculair maakt. Wij gaan naar de pitstraat van waar we de actie zullen volgen. En zo meteen komen we natuurlijk terug met reacties van diverse rijders na de verplichte pitstops halverwege de wedstrijd. En voor het commentaar bij de race geef ik graag over naar Kees en Dennis.
Thank you, Rene. Good to hear from Rene down on the grid and see these cars up close and personal. 4 different categories. Cars with number 1, or starting in 1, are GT cars, and Super Sport Plus with 2. Numbers beginning in 3 is Super Sport, and numbers beginning in 5 is the Sport class. So at the front, Marlon Birdzil, GT driver on pole position, and then next to him we have the Mitchell van Dijk, Alan Bird Radical. Cor Oyzer and Dan Meyer are row 2. Jules Houtem and Cees Weissman on row 3. Then the first of our Super Sport Plus cars come next in, Barry Van Elk alongside Ted Fleet. Thijs Wesseling next along, and then we have the 301 of Dennis de Borst and Stef de Borst. Ivar Moons is next in 12th place. We have Eric van den Mukoff and Mike Barton. Then next along behind that we can see the 307 Ferry Monster racing car of Lorenzo van Riet and Oscar Greiper. Ruud Olij and Valentin Graven are row 8. Row 9 is Tom Drummond and Emil Drummond, and alongside that the 302 of Lawrence de Witt and Fabian Schoonhoven. Once we get to the end of the front 9 rows, we will start to get into the sport category. But this is a look overall. You can see lots of variety in categories within those top 9 rows. We've got GTs towards the front. 7th place is our first Super Sport Plus, and 10th is our first Super Sport Contender. Here's where we start to see the sports categories, your Renault Clios and Alpines next. So row 10, 19th place is Roger De Liu, Patrick De Vries. Then our lead sport car, Martin Baggermans in the BMW. It's Nicolas Piguel, Chris Voet and Bart van den Broek. Rob Neiman and Richard Blom next, and it's Henri Graven. Christian Dijkhoff, Harry Barton is right at the back of the field as he did not take part in qualifying earlier. He had some mechanical problems which have stripped him from any laps in the earlier free practice session and the earlier qualifying session as well, so he'll go from the back. Now, so far we've had 2 races this weekend, 2 yesterday. Driver 1s after qualifying 1s were in the first race, and then the Driver 2s were in the second race. Those were sprint 30-minute races, so fewer points, but now we have full points out there in the 60-minute race, where we will have a mandatory pit stop between 25 and 35 minutes, and the minimum pit stop time in terms of entry and exit is 1 minute and 16 seconds. There are some exceptions for the likes of Cor Oyzer refueling, so it goes up to 1:21, but the minimum 1 minute and 16. If you're coming out at 1 minute 15, you will receive a penalty, and if you don't pit between 25 and 35, similarly you will also receive a penalty. It also means we are now at full points for this race as well. It was half points yesterday, full points today. 24 for the win, 22 for second, 20 for third, and you get the picture. It works down in 2s to the top 10, where you get 6 points, and 4 different categories, as I said, so 4 different wins and 4 different sets of points all available. Now, we also have the Radical in there, the Soul Radical, which doesn't really have any competition in terms of other Radicals, but it has been very good in terms of fighting with the likes of Marlon Birdzil, Dan Meyer, and so on. What have been the results of the first 2 races so far? Well, race 1 was won by Marlon Birdzil ahead of Dan Meyer and Harry Barton. Overall, the class winners were Barry Van Elk, Lorenzo van Riet and Martin Baggermans. And then in race 2, it was the Radical which one. The number 77, Mitchell van Dijk, piloting it ahead of Harry Barton and Jules van Houten. Class winners, Ruud Olij, Oscar Graper and Martin Baggemans, who's all but dominated that category. Well, we're all lining up, ready to go. Didn't see if Harry Barton was at the back of the field, but I do hope he is there and should be working his way through. But at the front, Marlon Birdsell will lead the way. Dan Mayer will be hoping to fight with him. Likewise, Cor Oyser, and we'll see how that Radical can do. I think I did see the white BMW of Harry Barton there, so will be one to watch, no doubt, in this one. It's going to be a rolling start. The pace will now hand over to Marlon Birdsell on pole position. The safety car will peel in to the right-hand side of the circuit. 60 minutes are on the clock. We are ready to go for the main race of the season opener here at Zandvoort in the Supercar Challenge for 2026. To the left is Marlon Birdsell, to the right is Mitchell van Dijk, and we are go for the final time this season at Zandvoort. Leading us down towards turn one is Marlon Birdsell, and it looked like Dan Mayer went charging round the outside of the Radical, and Cor Oyser to take second place. Cor Oyser trying to hang on the inside in that Marcos, but in the BMW, Dan Mayer is going to chuck it down the inside. Hugen holds corner, doesn't quite manage to get through, and if anything, that was the wrong decision because he has now found himself behind the Radical of Van Dijk, and Cor Oyser really up for this in the early stages here, already getting after the race leader there of Marlon Birdsell. No start for Harry Barton, he's confirmed sadly, so that is a real shame, but we look forward to seeing him back at the next round. It seems the issues he had were unfixable in time for this race. This is going to be a lengthy race, which you'll notice the body language of the drivers, a lot of them not too keen to go very quickly at the start because you want to keep your tyres fresh in this one throughout. And Harry Barton described this quite well yesterday. It's a race which you can really grow into, unlike the sprint races. So expect drivers just trying to look after their tyres before we get to the end of the race. It is not all about leading from the front at the very start, but Cor Oyser looks like he wants to lead from the front. He is just at the back of Marlon Birdsell's car. The field now filters its way through, and here we go. Are we going to have a change for the lead straight away? I think we are. Cor Oyser charges down the outside of Marlon Birdsell and is going to take control of this race. So Cor Oyser, one of the legendary drivers, leading the way in that Marcos Mantara LM600, doing an absolutely superb job. It looks a fabulous car, and he is going to lead the way in this one. An F3000 racer is Cor Oyser in the late 80s before jumping into sports cars in the early 90s, racing in the DTM. So he's been there and done it all, as Cor Oyser, former British GT champion as well. And now he's leading the way in this Supercar Challenge, has a lot of experience behind him. Is Marlon Birdsell in that 111 car. Trying to get by now is Marlon Birdsell. Fight going on for third as well. We can see Dan Mayer and Mitchell van Dijk as we're going to be side by side once again going in towards turn 10. Hugely experienced driver Dan Mayer as well. 15 years of experience he carries in the sport, so knows what he's doing. There's a lot of experience on this grid. Some newer drivers, but I have to say it's a grid that is full of drivers who have raced in several categories and just about every condition you can think of over the course of 20 years. So beautiful conditions today though here at Zandvoort. We have had rain throughout the weekend, but not affecting us now. This is your battle for the lead in the Supersport Plus category. The 282 Mercedes leading Van Elk in the 273, and the Mercedes has had a bit of a difficult weekend at times so far, but is leading the way in Supersport Plus early on. Let's see if he can start to get a gap over Berry Van Elk. Thijs Vesseling is next behind in that queue, and not a million miles away. One of the best things about this category, the noise the cars provide, and that is what has been bringing in the fans filling the grandstands here this weekend with all manners of racing, and fans getting the chance to get up close and personal to the cars as well. So if you're anywhere near a Supercar Challenge event this year, make sure you do join us, as that's going to be a change for second. Dan Mayer is going by Cor Oyser, who was very quick at the start, but just losing a couple of positions as well. He did mention as he spun in qualifying that his tyres might be affected in this one. Mitchell van Dijk with the white crash helmet in the Radical, good through the corners, but loses out down the straights, and Cor Oyser will slip straight back by the Radical there, going down to turn 11, through turn 12 now, and up towards the final two corners. We've got Van Houten in the background as well, also there. And those are your lead pack heading round the final corner and down the start-finish straight. Birdsall ahead of Oyser as we head up to the line now, and there we can see a change in the background going on as Jules Van Houten in that white BMW is going to go by the Radical. This is where this battle gets a bit interesting, because the Radical faster through the corners. Whoa, Cor Oyser. Well, if his tyres weren't ruined already, they are definitely ruined now. Just about managed to get the car stopped in time into turn 1, and that's where Cor Oyser lost all the time over Marlon Birdsall and dropped himself 6 seconds back. So he was really keen to lead this race from the front, but complete misjudgment under braking. Now, he was struggling with suspension in qualifying. He had a suspension failure which saw him off into the gravel at turn 2, and I hope that isn't signs of that suspension failure creeping back in, because that was a very unusual mistake from Cor Oyser, and the car getting all out of shape, and it didn't look all driver error to me, that. So let's see. I hope I'm just reading that one wrong for Cor Oyser's sake. Looking back to the Super Sport category, we've got the likes of GT4s, TCRs all racing with each other. And then the Sport category, like I mentioned, is your Clios, Alpines and BMW M3s. And here we can see the 301 trying to work its way forward. There's the Mercedes. It's the Super Sport Plus lead battle. In terms of Super Sport, we saw the 301 of De Borst, which is leading the way, as all over the back of the 282 Mercedes there is Barry Van Elk, and Barry Van Elk's going to run wide out of turn 13. We'll lose momentum now through 14, and down the start-finish straight we go. Barry Van Elk just has to try and settle back down here. In the background, not a million miles away, is Thijs Vesseling as well in that orange livery. And right on cue, there we see him in the middle of your picture now for CP Motorsport. He is Thijs Vesseling. Remember, between 25 and 35 minutes, we are going to have the pit stop window, so a 10-minute window for them to come in and have a minimum 1 minute and 16-second journey between the pit entry and pit exit. Out of turn 1 and now down to turn 2 and 3. This is the 302 car on your screen now, making its way around that section of the circuit. Down through 4, 5 and 6. This is where these cars really pick up momentum and start to travel along. 301 Dennis de Borst. At 302 is Lawrence de Witt and Fabian Schoonhoven. That's that car leading the way in this little battle. We've got 321 there as well. The fight for the lead in Super Sport Plus, though, still raging on. Van Elk made a mistake last time coming out of turn 13. Will he make the same one this time? If he doesn't, you feel there could be a change of lead in Super Sport Plus here. Barry Van Elk comes around turn 13 through 14, flat out in these cars, and up towards the start-finish line now we go. And it's going to be defensive line taken from the 282. Are we going to see a change of lead here? To the inside goes Van Elk, but Van Elk backs off And the Mercedes looking like just missing the apex ever so slightly there, feeling the pressure from Van Elk behind. Let's check back in with our leader, Marlon Birdsall, and the chasing pack, Dan Mayer and Cor Oyser. You can see it's pretty close between those two now. In the white livery, that is Van Houten, and we got that Radical behind, still fighting away with it. And the Radical Van Dijk trying to look down the inside there, not quite able to get back through. Round turn 10, the Radical will now send it all the way around the outside. Here comes Mitchell Van Dijk, race winner so far this weekend, and you can see why. But will now lose speed to the GT3 car, which will take that place back before the braking zone, and has done so. Cor Oyser looks much more settled, and no signs of any damage creeping in, not from any incidents, but in terms of what happened to him earlier. It looks like that car is back to normal, just that one moment down to Tarzan corner. Other than that, he seems to be doing okay. Mitchell Van Dijk almost pushing Gilles Van Houten through the final corner, and will now have a lot more work to do. That Radical is quite a unique challenge, because you've got to do all the work in the corners to stay with these GT3 cars and try and get the move done before you hit the straight. Get there with a gap as well. Van Elk right behind the Mercedes, the 282 car. Van Elk's going to now look to the inside. This is going to be a change of lead in Supersport Plus, is it? Looks like the Mercedes just having the edge on straight line speed, and will hold on ahead of Van Elk in that BMW. Van Elk will once again stay in behind, but this battling is just allowing Thijs Wesseling to close in, and defensive line now taken from the Mercedes into Hugenholtz corner, and Van Elk has taken advantage. Great driving that, went round the outside to get the run, and that's a change of lead complete in Supersport Plus. Thijs Wesseling was in there behind as well. Will we see him now closer? Van Elk is through and comfortably, and yes, Thijs Wesseling now with an opportunity here to go through into second place in Supersport Plus. Overall, we're fighting for top 10 positions, as Cor Oyser is now starting to navigate traffic. So these sport cars, you can see there, an interesting concept of this championship has always been the fact that we've got GT3 cars against Renault Clios all on the same track at the same time, and it means that time can easily be won or lost amongst the traffic, and it becomes an extra element to the race rather than having, say, a field of GT3 cars. You are navigating traffic at quite a rate of knots if you're in the GT category. On the flip side, if you're in that sport category, you're having to look in your mirrors as well as look forward constantly as the race develops. So we find ourselves with a bit of a track with race leaders all over the place, but battles will continue to go on. In terms of the class leaders, we're now over 10 minutes in, so let's just do a summary of the top three in each class. It's Marlon Birdsall, Dan Mayer, and then Van Dijk in the Radical. Third in GT is Gilles Van Houten. Cor Oyser is in the pit lane, so I'm going to imagine that was signs of mechanical issues that have filtered into his car. He almost went straight off the road here into turn one in what looked a very unusual mistake. I think that was Cor Oyser saving the car in the end from what could have been a trip to the gravel, and quite a lengthy one. So Cor Oyser, after managing to recover from that, I think has seen some damage to his car, which has forced him to come into the pits. But again, that is all just speculation. I'm sure Rene will have any answers for us as and when down in pit lane. Continuing to watch the battles in the GT category. Got the likes of Weissman and Fleet here very close together. This is your battle for 6th and 7th. And we're 10 minutes away from seeing the pit window open as well. Birdsall now has a lead of 15.7 seconds, but it seems Dan Mayer has lost second place to the Radical of Van Dijk. So Van Dijk got back ahead of Van Houten. We saw him just ahead, and it seems he's now caught and passed the number 113 car of Dan Mayer. Here your battle for 6th and 7th in the GT class, heading down to turn 1 now, and they've been following each other for quite a while now. Colroy's in pit lane, and it's not in the pit window, so even if he's to return to the track, he'd have to pit again for 1 minute and 21 seconds. So I think that could be the end of Kilroy's day, sadly, but we'll find out shortly if we see him come back out on track. So here's the on-screen. You can see the Radical is now back by Dan Mayer. We saw a little bit of a snip of that, and Van Hoopton is right there behind as well. And this picture-in-picture shot, it looks like Rene is doing some investigating for us down there with our camera crew, looking towards the rear end of the car, just pointing over there. So Rene, as he has been all weekend, just on it in terms of finding out what's on, and great pictures delivered to you by the team at Alpha Live here. Eyes in all parts of the circuit. 16 team crew heading out there to Zandvoort this weekend to make sure we can watch all the action live. Down towards turn 11. Like the livery on that car, I have to say. The car just behind the Cease Weissman car. It looks absolutely fantastic, doesn't it? Let us know in the comments which of the liveries you are enjoying the most. The Van Elk car is nice, but PlayStation livery, very, very nice there from Cease Weissman and behind Ted Van Vliet, and I'm sure that's been a popular one amongst the fans around the circuit. Right, Rene, I think, has been doing some investigating. Let's hear from him now.
Inderdaad, Cor Euser, spectaculair aan de leiding in de wedstrijd, maar toen?
Ja, ik heb echt serieus een remprobleem. Hij blokkeerde en hij trok gelijk naar rechts. Ik kon hem nog net uit de grindbak houden. Heb ik een rondje rustig gereden, niks aan de hand. En toen zette ik weer aan en het was weer precies hetzelfde. Hij trekt naar rechts en ja, dat is eigenlijk, ik had al flat spots op mijn banden. Dus ik had sowieso de finish niet gehaald, maar ik denk ik probeer het toch nog even. Maar helaas, hij laat me in de steek.
Zonde, toch in ieder geval prachtig om die auto hier te zien. Je hebt voor goede show gezorgd in de beginfase van deze wedstrijd. Wat voor gevoel is het om hier weer met die auto op Zandvoort te rijden?
Ja, het is natuurlijk een beest van een auto. Geen traction control, geen ABS, geen powersteering. Je moet met de hand schakelen, koppelen met terugschakelen. Dus je bent zo druk in die auto dat, ja, dat weten mensen niet meer. Maar een uur rijden in zo'n ding is echt zwaar.
Echt mooi en klassiek racen. Gaan we jou terugzien in de Supercar Challenge?
Wie weet, we gaan eerst kijken of we het geluid naar beneden kunnen halen, want dat is al een probleem. Iedere keer komen we er goed mee weg, omdat toch een beetje zo gedaan wordt. Dus daar ben ik wel blij mee, omdat ze toch de show door willen laten gaan. Dus chapeau voor het circuit. Dus, maar misschien komen we hier weer terug.
Ja, goed, dankjewel, Cor Euser. Brief summary in English. Cor said he spectacularly took the lead in the race, but then his car started getting slower and slower. He was pulling to the right and he was having flat spots, so yeah, that didn't work out at all. So he wouldn't have made it to the finish anyway. And then he had a big lockup, as we all saw on screen, and that was basically the end of the race for him. And also the issue there was on the exhaust, but he hopes to be back in the Supercar Challenge. He was enjoying it a lot of, yeah, very much. And he said it's really old classic racing. No electronic gizmos, no driver aids, no ABS, no slip power steering and everything. So just classic racing, and that's what he's enjoying most with his Marcos.
Thank you to Rene. You would have seen in the bottom right-hand side of corner live, we had a spin from the 124 car, which has found itself in a slightly awkward position. This is Jules Van Hooptem, who was fighting for the podium positions and took a spin whilst that was happening, and is now in a very awkward place at turn 3, where he can't quite get out of that old section, and is trying to get himself out, and doing so whilst not coming into the path of another car. Let's watch this one back then. So Jules Van Hooptem in the white and red, trying to get by traffic, and just completely misjudges at the corner there. I've got to say, the car on the outside and the Alpine, which came through next, did very well to avoid him. And the yellows are still out, so I'm going to assume he's still stuck there. This continues the battle. What is now for 5th? Make that 4th with Van Hooptem spinning. These guys have both gone up a position, so this fight, I believe, now is going to be for a podium place in the GT category. Downhill and looking to the outside once again is Cease Weissman. Fleet just ahead in the 108. And we're going to head now to the final 2 corners. Yellow's still out, and look at that in the bottom right-hand side. Van Houten has only now just got the car facing in the right direction and is able to get out. And that was all because you couldn't really go backwards around turn 3. It would have just been far too dangerous. Had to try and get himself facing the right way, but in a corner that is incredibly steep. That was a little bit hard to do. I think Van Houten will be a little bit disappointed with himself. But that's how easily how things can change in a race with so much traffic. Getting by the traffic is just a big of a thing in terms of doing lap time. So this now your battle for the last step on the podium in GTs. Just to go back to Cor Oyser, a real shame that he is out the race, that exhaust issue, and also the tyres completely flat spotted, and I think that was the signal to him that this just isn't to be his day. On screen, Weissman looking to go through up towards the turn 8 and 9 now, where Weissman I think has had enough of following now, and there he goes to the inside at turn 9, and Cees Weissman has gone through to take 3rd place in the GT category, and the last step on the podium round the left-hander now, and that is move complete for that PlayStation liveried car. Cees Weissman having a real strong race so far. But a shame we didn't see Cor Oyser to the end. He took over building those Marcos race cars himself at the turn of the century and has taken it to some great places. Daytona 24 Hour, the Suzuka 1,000 kilometers. And this fun fact coming from Adam Weller, he said he's had both his 500th and 1,000th race here at Zandvoort, which I think is a real great fact about Cor Oyser, who has had a real special connection to this race circuit. So a lovely fact coming there from Adam. Through the last 2 corners, we are seeing some of the super sport drivers just working their way through, and around the banking now and down towards turn 1. And we're about 3 minutes away from seeing this pit lane open. So very shortly we will be seeing cars coming to the pits, not with damage, but because they have to. Marlon Birdsell just has to be sensible in this race now, and you can see even there, breaking through turn 14, where shouldn't necessarily have to do so, but that was all just to make sure he didn't have contact with the other car. Now he's behind, I think this is Patrick de Vries. In fact, no, this is the Valentin Grevin livery car that he's behind, the CP Motorsport car. So just trying to get through, and again, great example here, showing himself in the mirrors to make sure that the blue flags are attended to. But you can see the gap to the left. He's lost about 2 seconds to the Radical of Van Dijk, who has brought that gap down to 11.8 seconds. An interesting thing I think to contend with is that those Radicals are so quick through the corners. I think they will lose less time when it gets to the safety cars, the traffic, sorry. So although the gap might be 11 seconds now, it's going to be one to keep an eye on throughout this race. I'll let you know what their lap times are next time they cross the line. But now Van Dijk has got past Dan Meyer and no longer has to deal with Cor Oyser. It's starting to gain some ground. 501 car, defending champions on your screen. That is Van den Broek and Chris Voet. Down through the banking, up 5 and 6. The sports category. This is the 2nd place driver in the sport category, and fighting away with Martin Bagermans. And down now through turns 8 and 9. And is that Martin Bagermans in 2nd? It is. So this is a lead change we have just seen on screen here, with Bagermans now behind Van den Broek and Voet. So this, for the first time, Martin Baggerman's not leading, and that isn't him on screen, that's him behind. So this could be an interesting battle now to watch over the next few laps, because Martin Baggerman's has had all the pace this weekend, but taking over the lead in the sports category now is Van den Broek and Voet in that Alpine 501. And it just seems Baggerman's does not have the pace he once had so far. We'll be coming up to the pit lane soon, and I wonder if he's carrying a slight issue there. Baggerman's just didn't seem to be coming out the corners as nicely as the lead driver. Round the banking now and up towards the line, or up towards turn 4 we go rather. You can see more changes going on. This is the 124 car just navigating its way through over the hill and now into 7, and the pit lane is about to be open. 3, 2, 1, we're open for pit stops for the next 10 minutes. So this is the part of the race where we can expect lots of drivers heading in to serve a mandatory pit stop of 1 minute and 16 seconds. I did tell you I'd give you the last lap times of Birdsall Van Dijk last time, and actually Birdsall was only slower by about 1/100th of a second, so fairly evenly matched, but we'll just keep an eye over that gap as we go through. Great race going on in the sport category. Those two only split by a couple of seconds now. In Super Sport, there is a gap of 11 seconds between Grepe and De Borst, and in Super Sport Plus, Van Elk has established a bit of a lead over Thijs Vesseling. But first pit stops now being complete. Reigning champions in Super Sport, Stef De Borst and Dennis De Borst, are going to do their driver change. Tyre pressure adjustments being made as well, and you'll notice that the team are not rushing to do all this. That's because they have got to take 1 minute and 16 seconds to do this pit stop. The driver change will be done, and getting all the seatbelts done takes a little bit of time, but it's something that the drivers will practice over the course of a weekend to make sure that they're doing it okay, and the teams will practice the car coming to them, doing all the adjustments and then sending it back off again. So the pit stops are starting to be complete now from the drivers out there. Here you can see it's getting to be a busier pit lane, so the race order could get a little bit jumbled up for the next 10 minutes, but once we get to 25 to go, we'll know exactly who is where after these pit stops. It shouldn't change a huge amount, but there are some driver swaps being made, so drivers getting in will feel a little more fresh and might be able to make an impact early on. Marlon Birdsall has lost another second to Van Dijk in the Radical, who is getting closer and closer. With 32 minutes to go, there could be an opportunity for that Radical to come through, and they are doing a driver swap as well. Alan Berg will jump in the car, and he's looked very good over the course of this weekend. Marlon Birdsall yet to come in. We'll see if when he comes into the pit lane. Dan Mayer is now in the pit lane in third place as well. So third place making its way into the pits. You can see some refueling going on in pit lane for the 503 car of Martin Baggerman's. Martin Baggerman's will get ready to release, with some exceptions for Baggerman's and Cor Oyser with that. And here comes Baggerman's now back out onto the track, having just lost the lead. Baggerman's, it might have been some fuel management going on, but Baggerman's will now get back out there and try and chase after the leader of Van den Broek and Voet once again. This looks like Dan Mayer to me in the pit lane. It is. Sending some air through the radiators there, the team, just to keep everything cool. Dan Mayer, a chance to have a bit of a breather. This pit stop for those drivers taking on the full race distance themselves. And the team ready behind to push them away. You can gain time in these pit stops, although nothing's really happening for Dan Mayer. The team have to absolutely get it right when they send him away, as they do there, to make sure he comes out bang on 116. If you find yourself coming out with 1 minute and 18 seconds complete, you can kind of guess what the difference is when you return to the track. So we've seen plenty of these type of races before, and a lot of it is down to the team nailing the amount of time they keep the car stationary in the pit lane. It's something they will go through and practice in free practice to make sure that when they're coming in and out, they're doing it exactly with 1 minute and 16 seconds. But that Koopman Racing team, he is with incredibly experienced at this level. Gap for the lead still coming down, isn't it? Marlon Birdsall does not seem to be getting through the traffic as quickly as the Radical. There's Mayer, but he has had a pit stop, of course. But the Radical is just getting through the traffic a lot better right now. This is the 502 of Rob Neiman, the Renault Clio. Second in sport, about 9 seconds back from the leader. Martin Baggermans, who was in second, has come into the pit lane. Still waiting for Supersport Plus leaders Barry Van Elk, Thijs Vesseling to come in to the pit lane. It looks like Reven has come in already. This is one of our sports drivers here of Baggermans, who is come through the pit lane and will now have the chance to really try and work forward. Van Dijk, another car yet to come in, but look, just so quick through the corners is that Radical, and I think that's what's making the difference right now in him closing the gap down to Marlon Birdsall. They took the overall win in race 2 yesterday, these guys, and look at that, 4 seconds taken out of Birdsall. In fact, he's come into the pit lane just overseeing that, but Marlon Birdsall is in. Pit stop going on, and this is an opportunity now for Van Dijk to really try and put as good a lap time in as possible before handing over to Alan Bergen, who will have to do that very shortly. We've got only 4 minutes to go before that pit stop window closes. Hope you're enjoying the coverage so far. It's great to see so many different variety of cars out there. This live coverage, a new edition for the championship, and I really do hope you're enjoying it all. What's even better is seeing them in person and hearing the noise of the cars. As whatever pictures you give, that does not do it justice. So if you want to come and watch us live, we'll be at Spa at the end of May, Zolder at the end of June, and then not long after that, the start of August, we'll be at Assen, Hockenheim with GT Open, which is going to be a really great weekend of racing. Fully recommend doing that one if you're nearby. 11th to the 13th of September. Good excuse to go and have a weekend in Germany. We're back here on the first weekend of October. The final races at Assen will be the 23rd to the 25th of October. So we're in for a long season. Likely we'll get a variety of different drivers throughout as well, and a variety of different cars. So these drivers you're looking at are not going to be all our drivers for the full season. This championship is one that often opens its doors to plenty of drivers. Right, look at this, round the outside there. Great racing in the Super Sport category, this going on. Heading down the hill now and back up. You can see a queue of 4 drivers here, and I think is that Marlon Birdsall trying to get through. It is, and it looks like Bird has gone through and taken the race lead from Marlon Birdsall. So that Radical, I think, has come through and taken the lead. We'll find out in just a second, but look at this. Birdsall is under all sorts of pressure here, trying to get through. He's caught a battle of GT4 cars, and now he's trying to navigate his way through it, and will be losing time whilst doing so. The Radical, meanwhile, did set the fastest lap last time around, so really great driving from Berg, whilst Marlon Birdsall is back out on the circuit now on his out lap, just trying to make his way through some traffic. Cees Weissman is in. Ted Van Vliet is in as well. Blue flags wave whilst the leader here of Birdsall very keen to get through, and a bit of time lost there. Couldn't get past the 246 car on screen. Wasn't quite able to make a move there, and that will be a little bit of frustration to Birdsall, who will not get through down this start-finish straight. It's Ruud Olij. He was stuck behind, and Ruud Olij now to the outside of circuit sees Birdsall go back through. Just waiting for that radical to come in. But look at the gap. It's 1 minute and 21. The minimum pit stop time is 1 minute and 16 seconds. It's going to have to be into the pits this time, surely, for Alan Berg in the radical. It is. So Alan Berg has come in, and this is an important moment in the race. The radical is in, and there you can see the live pictures as it pulls in to have this driver swap. Mitchell van Dijk, in. Alan Berg, getting ahead of myself there, is about to jump in. So Van Dijk will jump out, and Alan Berg will now jump in. Great driving there from Mitchell van Dijk, and you can see the hurry from him, because he knows that there's going to be an opportunity here for them to take the race lead away from Marlon Birdsell. Marlon Birdsell, he's 40 seconds away from the start-finish line, and as soon as they have the opportunity to, Alan Berg will be out on circuit and may even be doing so in the lead. I do apologise, my focus is on this at the moment, but there's the radical to the left. Is it on its way yet? No, but you can see Van Dijk is getting ready to push it. Here comes Marlon Birdsell, then round turn 12 and up towards 14, and it's being delayed once again by the 226 of Valentin Greven. This is not good for Marlon Birdsell. Needs to get through as quickly as possible. The radical is now travelling. It's on its way. It's being pushed. A bit of a delay to get it going there, but it is now away and clear. Alan Berg is on the way down to pit exit and will be in the lead when it comes out. You can see Marlon Birdsell clearing some traffic. It's going to be quite tight, actually. Alan Berg heading round now and is just out in the race lead, but those tyres will not be as fresh as they were when he came in. So Marlon Birdsell has got to pounce now. He's got to take the lead away through this section. It's going to be quicker in a straight line, so I think we'll see side-by-side action going on now between Birdsell and Berg. This is your battle for the overall race win. And look at that, Alan Berg defending from Marlon Birdsell up through 6 and 7. The run between 10 and 11 will be an opportunity for Birdsell to take this lead. It just has to stay with the radical now. Round turn 8, in towards turn 9 we go now. Berg is looking very settled in the car, just defending into T9 now. Birdsell looking to the outside, and I think there's going to be a lead change here. Whilst this is happening, we are going to get an update from René down in
Mitchell van Dijk in de radical. Sterke eerste wedstrijdhelft voor jou. Vertel, hoe was die strijd om de leiding in de beginfase met Marlon Birdsell en ook met Cor Euze in de Marcos?
Ja, dank u wel. Ik had aan het begin, zoals ik al voor het interview ervoor zei, te weinig power om de leiding of het P2 te houden in bocht 1. Ze kwamen allemaal voorbij. Ik heb geprobeerd zoveel mogelijk posities te behouden. Uiteindelijk ben ik inderdaad plek voor plek weer wat teruggekomen. Ik zat tussen 2 M6'en en Cor in. Eentje kwam van achter, 2 zaten ervoor. Dus ik werd in het gedeelte waar ik snel moest zijn, werd ik opgehouden. Kwam de andere er weer dichtbij. Cor maakte een foutje, hield de M6 daarvoor op. Cor kwam gelijk voorbij, daarna nog met de andere M6 een battle. Het was een lastige strijd, maar uiteindelijk kwam ik vrij, kon ik mijn rondjes rijden. Ik zag dat ik langzaamaan weer naar Marlon toe kwam. En voor mij een goede stint, vind ik zelf.
Heel goed, dankjewel. Nu afwachten hoe Alan Berg de auto naar huis brengt.
Inderdaad, hopen voor een podium.
Hoping for a podium finish, says Mitchell van Dijk. He said in the opening stages of the race there was a tight battle in traffic. He lacked a little bit of power, a little bit of performance in the opening lap, and he had to let Cor Euze go and also Marlon Birdsell go. And then he was stuck between 2 BMW M6s, but eventually managed to make his way through traffic. And also when Cor Euze obviously retired, he managed to make his way further up to the front. And he was quite happy with his opening stint, and now has to keep his fingers crossed for his teammate Alan Berg, who is now trying to bring the car home and hopefully finish on the podium. Let's go and see whether we can find some more people to interview. We'll be back later on.
Thanks, René. Whilst he makes his way down the pit lane to find the next guest on our broadcast, we're just seeing news come through at the top of the screen that there is a 5-second penalty for the car 108, which is Ted Van Vliet. And that's quite a decisive penalty because he is currently 3rd in the GT category and now has to build a gap over Cees Weissman behind. The gap between them is currently just under 2 seconds. So that's, even though we might not see any overtaking between those two, the battle is going to be one that could go all the way to the line, even if the cars are not next to each other. So that's going to be one to watch. Whilst we were hearing from Rene and Mitchell van Dijk, you saw Alan Berg lose the lead of the race to Marlon Birdsall, having briefly had it. Birdsall eventually getting through and has now already built a gap over Alan Berg, who just seems to have dropped back slightly. We did hear some performance issues were coming from Mitchell van Dijk, but it certainly didn't look that on the track at all. It looked to be going along really well, but they now have dropped 5 seconds behind Marlon Birdsall. But this could be just a case of Alan Berg settling himself in. They want an overall podium, and they're very much on track to do that. Okay, Rene looks like he's made his way down pit lane and found someone else.
Ik sta naast Tom Brummen. Tom, de eerste fase van de wedstrijd. Vertel eens, hoe ging het voor jou?
De start was wat rommelig. Ik zat net aan de verkeerde kant van het treintje. Dus er kwamen wat anderen voorbij. Later, toen het wat meer gesetteld was, kon ik die wel weer inhalen. Dus had ik wel mijn positie weer terug. Vervolgens heb ik geprobeerd om mijn banden gewoon in leven te houden. Want dat is toch wel een dingetje met die Hankooks en die zware BMW's. Die fik snel door die banden heen. Dus we hadden zoiets van, joh, we gaan gewoon bandenmanagement doen. Dus volgens mij is dat wel aardig gelukt. Mijn vader is nu op de baan en die ging gewoon kijken om te verdedigen en te kijken wat er te halen viel. Dus al met al prima start zo op de eerste endurance race.
Het waren natuurlijk niet alleen de M6'en, er was ook de Marcos van Coreuzer, die kleine Radical die ertussen zat. Dus ja, spannende strijd.
Ja, het is af en toe even druk zo. Multiclass, zo allemaal door elkaar. Maar dat maakt het ook wel leuk. Dat is wel de charme van deze cup, zo met z'n allen. Dus aan het genieten zo.
Heel goed, dankjewel Tom Drummen. But Tom said it was good dice in the opening stages. He was a bit stuck right after the start, so he couldn't make his way up to the front the way he wanted it to. But eventually he managed, and obviously the battle not just with the M6s, but also involving the mighty and brawny Marcos and also the nimble little Radical. And that was that's one of the attractive factors in the Supercar Challenge. We're going to find another interview partner, and there is Dennis de Borst. Dennis, kunnen we even een kort interview doen? Dennis de Borst in de Hyundai. Nu je zoon erin, Stef. Hoe ging de openingsfase van de race voor jou?
Ja, ik had een hele goede start. Ik kon goed wegrijden. Maar ik denk, ik ga nou wel een tempo te hard rijden. Dus ik heb me wat af laten zakken. Bij Lorenzo proberen aan te sluiten. Lukte redelijk niet te dichterop. Dus puur banden sparen. Ja, en dan hopen dat we tot het einde van de race nog goede banden hebben voor Stef. Maar dat valt niet mee. Dat is lastig.
So Dennis says he tried to save his tires and tried to keep up with Lorenzo van Riet in the sister car, so to say, and to save the tires for his son, who is now in the car, Stef de Borst, and hoping to be able to keep the tires alive and to bring the result home. But that's always the challenge also here in the Supercar Challenge. Thank you very much. Dankjewel, Dennis de Borst.
Thanks to Rene, getting a couple of interviews for us there. You could hear him. He was chatting to Dennis de Borst. We've now got Stef de Borst out there on track and in front of you on live pictures. Let's go through, as the pit lane was closed some 8 minutes ago now, let's go through a bit of a roundup of who is where and your podium sitters in each category. So overall, Marlon Birdsall leads by 11 seconds now, is looking to very much have the upper advantage over the Radical. The main gap now to keep an eye on is the gap between Alan Berg and Dean Mayer. Dan Mayer is starting to catch up, so that could be one to keep an eye on. We heard from Mitchell van Dijk that they want an overall podium. I'd say they're looking on track to do that because Ted Van Vliet is a little bit further back. So the gap to keep an eye on, but Marlon Birdsall going about 3 seconds quicker than the likes of Dan Mayer, and over a second quicker than anyone. This looks like Christian Dijkhoff in the pit lane there, with the car just being inspected, and that's a shame for Christian. But Ted Van Vliet is third overall in GTs. Supersport Plus then, Barry Van Elk 9 seconds ahead of Thijs Vesseling, who's about 8 seconds ahead of Valentin Greven. Ruud Olij is not far back from Valentin Greven, so we'll monitor that one throughout. Supersport, it's Van der Riet Graper leading comfortably ahead of the de Borsts. and then behind that we have Drummond, the Drummond car. As we can see the work going on in the sport category to Christian Dijkhoff, and that is still being led by the 501. Bagermans has dropped back from that car after being passed earlier, which we were watching at the time, and Bagermans will need to try and catch back up here. Rob Neiman is then in third place in the sport category. So that is a summary of where we are overall in terms of your top 3 in each class, and just looking at what could be our next significant change. Well, the super sports battle between the one, I think this is the one you're watching on screen. We've got Van den Mukoff, Barton and Drummond very close together. That is one that is definitely one to watch. This looks like Barry Van Elk, who is the super sport leader on screen, but close battle going on for the last step of the podium. Supersport 1 with Van den Mukoff, Barton and Drummond as well. Rounds now turn 9 and up towards turn 10. Beautiful conditions here today at the circuit. Oh dear, well, it looks like Van Riet has just come in the pit lane in the 307. So not too sure what's gone on there, but that could put the De Boer's car in the lead. It's certainly not a stop, a required pit stop. So the 307 car in pit lane, perhaps with some issues, means that De Boer will go through to the lead, and that Van den Mukoff, Barton, Drummond battle will be over second place, and they were just 1/10 of a second apart, the 322 and 321. I'm sure Rene will be investigating exactly what is going on with that 307 car in pit lane, and we will hear from him shortly. And here he is on screen. Let's find out.
Ik sta naast Oscar Greper, net in de auto gestapt, maar nu alweer eruit. En dat is natuurlijk niet de bedoeling. Vertel eens, wat is er aan de hand?
Bout van de fusée afgebroken, hoor ik. Okay. Dat is, ja, ik stapte net uit, ik weet niet meer. Dus ja, kloten.
Ja, dat was bij de nieuwjaarsrace al zo voor jou snel afgelopen en nu hier weer. Zo wil je het seizoen niet beginnen.
Ja, gisteren ging het beter, dus dat is zo. Maar ja, het materiaalpech, laten we het zo noemen.
Ja, jammer.
Ja, kan er niks aan veranderen. Ja.
Thank you to Rene, straight on the case with Oscar Greper down there in the pit lane, who looked somewhat bemused by what was happening there. Let's go back to Rene now, who is going to be in pit lane, will be with us very soon, I'm sure, to give more updates. But Greper will now drop back in Supersport. So taking over the lead now is De Boer. We heard from Dennis a little bit earlier, and then we've got that fight for second and third now. The 322 car just getting a little bit of advantage over the 321 car now. In sports, it's Bagermans who's trying to close in on the Van den Broek and Voets car, but looks like the 501 defending champions are looking quite comfortable. Right, let's check in with the next guy here. This is Ruud Olij, who is 4th in Supersport Plus and is around 6 seconds back from the podium places. Seems to be doing similar times to what we saw, to what we see for the cars ahead. Ruud Olij, 63 years old, competing in this one. Wouldn't seem it from when you're watching it, but he's been with us since the inaugural season of the Supercar Challenge, an expert of the BMWs, which he's in now, and has experience racing in some really nice cars, but a category which is welcome to all cars, all ages, and I think that's one of the most fun things about the Supercar Challenge. And like Cor Oyser said, it's any gimmicks taken off the car, and it's your classic sports car racing, classic GT3 racing, which is a little bit hard to find around these days in terms of a racing championship. And this one that takes these classic cars around Europe, these old school style cars. So, and then we've got the likes of these GT3 cars, which are really superb to watch. So it has a different feel to it from, say, your GT World Challenge, but it's that different feel which fans seem to miss in the world of racing nowadays. Oh dear, someone facing in the wrong direction, as Dan Mayer has caught Alan Berg, and we just saw the overtake there on screen. So that is a change for second place overall. Dan Mayer is past Alan Berg. That gap was coming down for quite some time. In terms of hanging on to the podium for them, I think they'll be okay. They'd have to have an off, this Radical, to lose that podium, but they put in a great stint once leading the race, and now they find themselves in the overall podium places. Just trying to identify which car that was. I'm going to keep an eye on this second sector time. See who comes through slowly. Christian Dykhoff has come through slowly, is out the pit lane, and I wonder if that was Dykhoff we saw facing in the wrong direction. I'm going to say yes, because his second sector, 53 seconds in comparison to 40 odd seconds for other drivers in his class. Yellow flag is out at turn 10. There we go. It's Dykhoff is back in pit lane, so clearly an issue with his car that has continued on. It says there are yellow flags at turn 10. Find out who is there exactly, or whether that is the same car we saw spin. Oh, here we go. I think this was it, actually. I think I'm reading that wrong. This is the 236 car, isn't it? Who is now heading round a little bit slowly. And that is a Nicolas Piguel for Koopman Racing. So that looked like the car facing round. And yes, 2 minutes Nicolas Piguel lost in total with that spin. Into the final 10 minutes of this 1 hour race, this first main race of the season. And different lines being taken there by the Mercedes and the BMW, and that is a change of position once again. Mercedes losing a place to 282 car, and it looks like going by was De Vries in the 235, and that is for 5th place in Super Sport Plus. And car 506 is under investigation, so it gets worse for Christian Dykhoff. We saw that 506 car just in pit lane. It's now left, but it's now under investigation for speeding in the pit lane. When it's not meant to be, it's just not meant to be, is it? The podium places in the overall category look fairly stable, but not in terms of Super Sport Plus. Look at the gaps to the left. Wesseling and Greven right together with each other. You can hear the Mercedes going over the curb into the corner there. Down at turn 11 is a lovely place to watch. Just that grandstand to your left. If you're ever at Zandvoort, recommend going to watch there. The cars get right up close to you as they come round turn 12 and on the exit curves, and you almost feel like you can reach out and touch them. It's one of the places that I think many people go to watch, but it is well worth it, trust me. Into Tarzan corner. This is the 108 of Fleet. Oh, trying to get by what is traffic in that green Mercedes. This is what is third in GT, so Fleet and Weissman. Still an important battle between them. You can see Weissman in the blue PlayStation livery here in the background. Weissman can get up to Fleet, has a chance to get on the podium today. Last time round, Weissman was quicker by 0.3 of a second. Still time to close down a 3.6 second gap. Wesseling and Greven continuing to fight away with each other as well. In sport, just having a look, it looks like Bagermans is starting to now travel quicker than Van den Broek Voet, but I think Martin Bagermans doesn't have quite enough to close that gap down, and even if it comes down, might just run out of time. But this is the battle for third in the GT Championship. Fleet comes through the screen there. See tyres suffering as he made his way into turn 11, and in the background Weissman has got through traffic, so has a clear road to Van Vliet now. And there is that blue PlayStation livery car just heading through turns 13 and 14. You can see what attracts people to this championship. You are never on your own out there. You are constantly having to fight your way through traffic around the circuit. This is the Alpine 501, which is our leader in the sport category. I didn't think Martin Baggermans was going to get beat this weekend due to the sheer pace that he had, but this Alpine has come out very well in this race and has managed to do just that. Christian Dijkhoff is back in the pit lane once again, and the 307 of Oscar Greiper, who Rene, when investigated, has not left, so I think that's a retirement for the 307, and I imagine Christian Dijkhoff will call it a day now as well in that 506. Lovely sounds from the cars going on as we hear them come down the gears into turn 2 through 3. The banking section, which is a constant challenge to the drivers, having to drive this for 60 minutes if you're out there on your own. Just getting by with no mistakes, I think, is an achievement in itself. Over the crest, and now downhill we go. Just keep an eye on some of the gaps out there. Mayer and Berg are doing similar times in second and third. I wouldn't call that fight completely over just yet. If Mayer is to hit traffic somewhere and Berg is able to catch back up, that could be a battle resumed. And Vesseling Greven very, very close in Supersport Plus for second and third. Okay, it seems Rene has found another driver in the pit lane. Let's go down to him now.
En naast mij staat Christian Dijkhoff. Christian, 1 keer stoppen voor een pitstop tijdens de lange race, dat moet. Maar 3 keer stoppen is geen goed teken. En nu sta je stil. Wat is er gebeurd?
Geen goed teken, nee. Op een of andere manier, we dachten dat het een velgkrom was, dat het opgelost was door de pitstop. Maar dat was het ook niet. Dus waar ik rechtdoor wil, gaat hij rechtsaf. En waar ik linksaf wil, gaat hij rechtsaf. Dus ja, het laatste rondje heb ik het nog weer geprobeerd. Hebben we de achterbanden nog vervangen of het daarin zat misschien. Maar ja, ik ging bijna bij de slotenmaker rechtsaf. Terwijl die bocht toch echt linksaf gaat. Dus het was niet verantwoord om verder te rijden. Dus that's it. Einde race.
Helaas, volgende keer beter. Dankjewel. Christian Dijkhoff said there was an issue with the steering. Initially they thought the wheel was bent after the pit stop, but then changed the tires and even that didn't work. So that was the early end of the race for him.
Thank you, Rene. Great to have the updates from him down in pit lane. He's been a great addition to the broadcast and will continue to be so throughout the season. So lovely to have a great analysis down in pit lane, getting the live reaction. And we'll hear more from the drivers at the end of the race as well. 3 minutes to go, so we don't do 60 minutes plus 1. It is 60 minutes, so we're possibly now on the penultimate lap of the race. Van Elk going through traffic here as he heads now out of the corner. Barry Van Elk is our leader in Supersport Plus, but only just. It's getting close now with Valentin Greven and Thijs Vesseling all there. They're all together, 1, 2 and 3 in that order. It is really closed up whilst we were hearing from Christian Dijkhoff. They've got the Renault Clio just to the inside, which they're going to head round now with Rob Neiman. But this is your top 3 in Supersport Plus. Right together, and a mistake from Van Elk. He's going to lose the lead there, and he's going to lose second as well. And there's a change of lead on screen in Supersport Plus. Rob Neiman's even trying to get involved now as well, and has actually regained that place. So a huge mistake from Van Elk, and Valentin Greven will take the lead of Supersport Plus with 2 minutes to go. Now, can Vesseling try and make a challenge here? And I don't think Van Elk expected to be being held up by Rob Neiman in that Renault Clio, but that's exactly what is happening now down the hill. And Rob Neiman, great impact by him there, and it looks like Van Elk, his tyres are absolutely gone to pieces. He just can't seem to be getting out of the corners, and I think they've gone bust on him, unfortunately. He seems, you can hear how much he's struggling now for grip. But I did say it at the start, this is a race where you have got to play the long game. Things can all change very, very quickly. Marlon Birdzil, 1 minute and 15 to go. I think he might just creep one more lap in here. But we are watching him now coming through turn 10. He's behind that PlayStation livery car and will now make his way past and head down towards the turn 11-12 chicane. It's been a dominant performance really from Marlon Birdsall in this one. Led from the start, built up a gap. He did have that battle with the Radical, and it looks like he'll just have one more lap to go as he heads around the final two corners and really just has to keep out of trouble now. Here he comes through the final corner and on to the start-finish straight. Marlon Birdsall, it is one to go with 30 seconds left on the clock, and this is now the final lap of the race. Supersport Plus, Valentin Grevin is 1.2 seconds ahead of Thijs Wesseling. They have not come across the line yet, so we are waiting for them to start their final lap. They're about 30 seconds away from doing so, and that is a showdown that's gone all the way to the end, and Barry Van Elk will be bitterly disappointed with himself having lost that lead and win in Supersport Plus. But this is Marlon Birdsall, our overall leader. We'll monitor that other battle for you in Supersport Plus. Get the gaps when they come across the line next time. But great driving from Marlon Birdsall. All weekend he's done a really great job in that number 111 car. Won the first race, and in the second race hit some mechanical issues, so did not finish, but has come back very strong today, taken pole position in qualifying 3 earlier, and is going to take the maximum points away from this race. And with the likes of Cor Oyser and Harry Barton both retiring and not starting, it's going to give him a bit of an advantage over some of the field leaving today. He's more than made up for that DNF in race 2. Grevin seems to have a bit of a gap now in Supersport Plus. Meanwhile, Marlon Birdsall rounds the final corner for the final time, and it is now going to be checkered flag in race 3 as Marlon Birdsall comes up to the line, just getting a bit of a tow as he comes over the line, and Marlon Birdsall takes the win in race 3 here at Zandvoort. A superb drive from Marlon Birdsall, absolutely dominated that one from start to finish, and it's a bit of a wait to see Dan Mayer come across the line in second place. He's just coming around the banking now and heading down the start-finish straight. There he is, Dan Mayer, second place for him. Another good recovery. 2 drivers who have recovered really well after disappointing results, and it will be an overall podium for Alan Berg and Mitchell van Dijk as well. This is going to be your sport winner, Van den Broek and Voet in their Alpine. It seemed no one was going to get the better of Baggermans this weekend, but that Alpine has done just that and has looked very much in control over a long distance. They will leave with the full point score here as they head up to the line now. A great result from them, and De Boerst, you saw the yellow livery of De Boerst flashing the lights coming over the line. They have taken the win in Super 1, and Valentin Grevin has come across the line as well to take the win in Supersport Plus. So that is all our winners across. There's Rob Neiman just coming through. It's a podium for him in the sport category. Ivor Moons across the line next, and Ruud Olij just heads across. Next we wait for Gilles van Houten, who will feel that's an opportunity missed, having spun at Hugenholtz earlier whilst in the podium places. Gilles van Houten, I think, will see this as a missed opportunity here at Zandvoort, but a long season to go. That is everyone across the line and taken the flag. Your full race result: Marlon Birdsall wins race 3 in Supercar Challenge of round 1. Some 28 seconds ahead of Dan Mayer. The Radical gets an overall podium with Mitchell van Dijk and Alan Berg. The GT podium is finished by Ted Fleet and Weissman. Valentin Grevin won that great battle at the end in Supersport Plus between Wesseling and Elk. And we had Moons, Olij, Houten, who had that spin earlier. The 235 was next, the 282 Mercedes after that. De Boerst's in the 301 won the Supersport category ahead of Munkhoff, Drummond, Emil Drummond, Lawrence de Wits and Fabian Schoonhoven. And it was the 501 who won the sport ahead of Martin Bagemans at the end. And we had Neiman, Miguel, Blob, Dekker, Van Riet and Greper retired, as did Christian, Dijkhoff and Cor Oyser, all with mechanical issues. Harry Barton, a non-starter after issues that were creeping up for him earlier, which meant he did not take part in qualifying. Well, we now wait to see Marlon Birdsall come into the pit lane. A great job, and here comes the Radical as well. Great that these two cars can race against each other and put on such a great show. Coming out of the pit lane, could have quite easily fallen apart for either of them, but Marlon Birdsall took his time, pounced on that Radical and quickly established a lead, which made it game over. But the Radical takes an overall podium, with Dan Mayer finishing in second place. Climbing out the car, Marlon Birdsall as a winner, and not for the first time this weekend. Both races he has finished, he has won. I think he'll see that as a very successful weekend. Rene down there ready to get his reaction as he jumps out of the car. Greven, Supersport Plus winner, De Borst Super Sports winner, and the Sport winner was 501 of Vandenbroek and Voet. But a controlled race from Marlon Birdsall in this one. A shame we couldn't have the likes of Harry Barton out there to try and fight for the win, but Birdsall looked a bit unbeatable in that one. The Radical drivers celebrating in the background as well. They wanted an overall podium, and that's exactly what they got. And as well as joining Marlon Birdsall, they're going to join Dan Mayer, who suffered with problems in the second race yesterday, but no problems such today. Dan Mayer is out and back on the podium once again. Second place to Marlon Birdsall, just as he was in race one of the weekend yesterday. As for the Radical, they were fourth yesterday and first in the two races. So that's solid points on the board for them. 2 podiums and all 3 top 5 finishes as Dan Mayer now gets ready to climb out of his car. They put in some shift, these drivers, over the course of the weekend, getting round this circuit. And after 1 hour, adrenaline carrying Dan Mayer out the car there to celebrate. That's a really good result for him as he now runs over to the team. Birdsall, jumps out of the car, runs over to the team. Superb job from Marlon Birdsall overall. Dan Mayer in third, and then finishing the race on the podium was the Radical. But Marlon Birdsall, we can see, will get ready to have his reaction with Rene very, very shortly, as he just takes off his crash helmet now. And Rene is at the ready to speak to him. So we'll head back down to him very, very shortly to get his reaction. Marlon Birdsall is ready with him.
En die staat naast Marlon Birdsall. Marlon, vanuit de provinciat, overwinning in de lange race van de Supercar Challenge. Prachtige seizoenstart voor jou, 3 podiums. Vertel eens, hoe was jouw wedstrijd?
Ja, dank u wel. In het begin moest ik nog wel even vechten tegen Cor, dat was best wel leuk. En daarna moest ik eigenlijk mijn consistency vinden. En daarna, ja, ik werd ingehaald door de Radical. En uiteindelijk waren de banden een beetje wat lastig. Maar ik was super blij met de auto. Ik wil het hele team van Koopman bedanken voor de auto weer helemaal goed maken. Echt super.
Ja, perfecte start van het seizoen. 100% podium scoren, dus zo kan het verder gaan, hè?
Zeker weten, maar ik hoop dat het alleen maar beter gaat. Ik ga mijn best doen.
Ja, zo is dat. Je komt vanuit de simracen, daar doe je natuurlijk ook heel veel. Dat soort ervaringen, hoe maak je daar gebruik van bij het real-time en real-life racing?
Veel te veel schermtijd, heel veel simmen. Eigenlijk ben je iedere dag bijna bezig met wedstrijden rijden. Dus dan is vandaag bijna niet anders dan normaal, maar dan het echt zo. Dus heel veel simmen, ja.
En het werpt zijn vrucht af, zoals je ziet. Geniet ervan. Dankjewel vanuit de provinciat Marlon Birdsall.
Thanks to Rene there. Good to hear from Marlon Birdsall. Rene will head over now to get some more reaction. He looks like he's ready with another driver down there. You can see Dan Mayer has already gone up onto the podium. Mitchell van Dijk is there, Alan Berg, and I think he might have found Dan Mayer. Let's find out.
Daan Meijer, gisteren veel problemen. Je auto liep niet op 8 cilinders, maar uiteindelijk ze hebben goed gewerkt en vandaag werpt dat zijn vrucht af, hè?
Jazeker, ik moet wel mannen van Koopman bedanken. Die heeft vannacht 1 uur lopen sleutelen, spullen gehaald in de winkel. Allemaal nieuwe bobines erin, toch nog 1 keer nieuwe bougies erin. Ja, en uiteindelijk was het vermogen terug vanmorgen. Daar was ik natuurlijk wel heel blij mee. Starten was redelijk. Ja, Cor had een bliksemstart. Dat was ook niet erg. Ik denk een jongetje of 3, 4 en dan komt je in de beurt. En dan kwam Cor ook weer in de beurt. Dus dat was fantastisch. Ja, Mollen kon ik niet volgen. Die was natuurlijk al lang weg. Maar dat geeft ook niet. De jongen gaat hard. De jongen is 20, ik ben 57. Dus ik moet die helemaal niet klagen.
Beginnen met een podium, dat is in ieder geval een goede start van het seizoen. Jou in de lange race. Ja, zo is dat.
Zo is het. En het is toch een uur. En gisteren was het een half uur 2 keer. En nu hadden we natuurlijk verplichte pitstop. En dan denk ik, nou ja, een half uur is eigenlijk wel mooi. Ik wil er eigenlijk wel uit. Maar nee, we moeten nog een half uur door, jongens. Maar geeft ook niet. Als je helemaal zit, dan moet je ervoor gaan. En
zo is dat.
Het was een prachtig evenement. Dus op naar de volgende. Ja.
Heel goed, dankjewel. We zien elkaar bij de volgende in Spa-Francorchamps. So we've got the drivers who finished second as well, third as well, with Ellenberg en Mitchell van Dijk. Derde plaats voor jullie met de Radical. Mitchell, jou heb ik al gesproken, dus ik begin nu even met Ellen. Ellen, you took the second part of the race. Tell us a little bit about your experience.
Yeah, the car was a little bit more slippery as this morning, but for the rest it was big fun. I tried to keep Daan behind me, but yeah, we have not enough power.
Ellen zegt hij heeft geprobeerd om Daan achter zich te houden, maar kwam een beetje vermogen tekort. Dat was niet zo makkelijk. En het was, de baan was wat glibberiger dan die vanmorgen was. Dus het was lastiger om de auto op de baan te houden. Maar in ieder geval een goed resultaat en een podiumsucces voor jou. Mitchell, jij ook nog even een korte reactie. Hoe heb jij het geheel, het weekend beleefd? De Supercar Challenge nieuwe stijl, zoals gezegd, de opening van het seizoen.
Ja, het was een topweekend. Met natuurlijk de sprintraces van 30 minuten. Dan heeft iedere rijder zich zijn eigen shine moment om zich te laten zien. Daar heb ik natuurlijk een maximaal profijt van gemaakt. En voor de rest een topweekend. 2 podiums en mag niet klagen.
Heel goed, dus daar kunnen we mee afsluiten. Tevreden, Mitchell van Dijk en Ellenberg. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. We gaan over voor de afsluiting en de podiumceremonie naar Arthur Dekker.
Thank you to René down in the pit lane there, getting our reaction from all of our top 3, Marlon Birdsall, Dan Mayer, Alan Berger, Mitchell van Dijk. Well, here's where it started. Birdsall to the left, Cor Oyser joining him on the front row. The Radical, joining him on the front row of Mitchell van Dijk. Cor Oyser slipped down the inside whilst Dan Mayer went round the outside to go through. Cor Oyser was really up for it in the early stages, went and took the lead, but would shortly follow that with some issues creeping in. There was an exhaust issue on his car, and those would become a little bit worse. This was De Boers who were fighting away. This is the moment we saw Koizer just lose control going down into turn one. He destroyed both the tyres, and an exhaust issue on top of that forced him to come and retire from the race. Mitchell van Dijk then got through into second and was fighting away with Marlon Birdsall for the lead. Van Elk was our leader in the Supersport Plus category and doing a really good job throughout. This is, you can see examples of the Radical here, how good it is through the corners. They're just losing power down the straight. Almost incident there with Van Elk fighting away with the Mercedes just ahead, and would then get through and go up the hill. This was a long-going battle throughout the race. Ted Van Vliet and Cees Weissman in that blue livery, who would fight each other all the way from the start to the finish. Cor Oyser then retired from the race as it was round 2 between these two on circuit in Van Vliet and Weissman. This is where Van Houten lost the opportunity to take a podium. Just a misjudgment in the traffic and got stuck in the bowl down at Hugenholtz, which lost him a significant amount of time as the battle for the top 3 in GTs raged on and on between Van Vliet and Weissman. You can see the 149 of Weissman moves to the inside here, did get past but would be unable to hang on to that position. As you can see on the exit, we saw Weissman trying to get back through. Mitchell van Dijk, meanwhile, was doing a great job out front as our leader would come in Super Sport. Dennis de Borst and hand over to Stef de Borst. Marlon Birdsall would exit the pit lane, but would do so behind the Radical, but would eventually get back through and go through to take the race lead, whilst we saw Weissman just navigating his way through traffic here. Pit stops going on for Mayer and for Birdsall as we went halfway through the race. Meanwhile, you can see the battles we had going on in the middle of the pack. The lead in sport was Van den Broek and Voet. Martin Bagermans, it seemed he was going to challenge, but they did a great job to hang on to the lead. And this is where Birdsall gets back by the Radical and quickly established a 5-second lead after just exiting the pit lane, and would extend that to over 25 seconds over Dan Mayer in the end. There was a lot of overtaking down at Hugenholtz. This is de Borst versus Rob Neiman, who was very present at times in that race, fighting amongst the other categories. Mayer would be making his way through traffic likewise, but wasn't able to close the gap on Marlon Birdsall, whilst the battle in Supersport Plus was starting to hot up between Greven, Wesseling and Van Elk, and that would go all the way down to the final lap. 246 of Ruud Olij wasn't quite able to be part of that, was in fourth, and never quite had the opportunity to join. We saw the big lockout there. That's an example of the difference in lines that were taken through Hugenholtz section. That's on track here. We can see the CP Motorsport car just fighting away for positions, and then Van Elk found himself with two opponents straight behind in the lead of the race with only a few minutes to go, and dropped it coming out of turn 8, and that allowed both Greven and Wesseling to come through. Ruud Olij wasn't quite able to catch them up, but out front Marlon Birdsall would comfortably come across the line to win by 26 seconds ahead of Dan Mayer, flashing his lights over the line there. And it was the Radical of Berg and Van Dijk. We saw Greven take the win in Supersport Plus, de Borst take the win in Supersport, Van den Broek and Voet in Sport, and that was when Marlon Birdsall jumped out of his car and ran over to celebrate with his team. Round 1 win for him is in the bag, and Marlon Birdsall the full 24 points in this race. So now it's time for our podium. We'll see the GT drivers coming out, what concludes a great weekend of racing here at Zandvoort. It's been a weekend where we have had full crowds, the grandstand absolutely full throughout today, particularly when we had those Mazda MX-5 Cups. It was fans not just full, but on their feet throughout and loving the noise of these cars throughout the day. Been really great to see. You can see the drivers making their way out onto the podium now. We've got Ted Van Vliet and Dan Mayer, and now Marlon Birdsall making his way out. Ted Van Vliet's 4th overall, but 3rd in the GT podium. And of course, our 3rd place overall, Mitchell Van Dijk and Alan Berg, the only Radical out there, but it made quite the impact on the racing, and that they've had a very deserving 3 wins in that class, but also some overall podiums as well. And they'll share the podium there with not only Ted Van Vliet, but also top step as well, Marlon Birdsall. Marlon Birdsall, 2 wins in the bag, 2 overall podiums in the bag for the Radicals, who won the 2nd race yesterday. Dan Mayer, a couple of podiums for him this weekend as well. And this is a 1st podium this weekend for Van Vliet. So ends on a good note there, and did well in that battle with Cees Weissman to hang on to that position. 3rd place overall in GT. We're going to be showing all the podiums, so if you're waiting for one of the other podiums, then don't feel the need to leave us live just yet, because we'll be going through all the podiums, Supersport Plus, Supersport and Sport. But now we celebrate the overall podium, and it's a win for Marlon Birdsall. 24 points go to him. He's come back perfectly from his troubles yesterday and scored 24 points, getting a 24 points advantage in this race over Cor Oyser, Harry Barton as well. And he is going to be a hard one to beat in this championship going forward. But we did see signs that he could be raced against very competitively this weekend. So this is going to be a championship fight that rages on. There's no doubt about that. And well done to all of them. Gave us, both watching online and also around the circuit, some really great action to watch. Supersport Plus will make their way out to the podium next. In terms of overall position, they were P6, P7, P8. You'll remember that fight we saw going down to the last 2 laps where Van Elk dropped it at turn 8, and that one mistake cost him the win, but Valentin Grevin was all over the back of him at that point. Nevertheless, it is a podium in Supersport Plus for Barry Van Elk, who has done very good this weekend, and I'm sure enjoyed the fight we had at the end there. Thijs Vesseling finishing in 2nd place, and the winner is Valentin Grevin. Really good race by these 3, and showed how close the racing can be in this category. It's one that can be decided on the last lap, and is that going to be the case between these 3 come the final round of the season? You'll have to stick with us to find out, but right up there in the top 10, all 3 of them very close together throughout, and it's been a really great job by all 3 who competed in everything this weekend, so a well done to them. Van Elk knows he should have won that race because he's on the top step of the podium, and now jumps off as we do the champagne. So wanted his picture on the top step. I think he'll be back there very, very soon, and celebrations done in Supersport Plus as they'll now head off the podium, and Supersport will be the next podium that we do. In the end, a race won by 10 seconds. They were 14th, 15th and 16th overall. The Drummond pair didn't quite have the pace to match the top 2. The top 2 split by only 10 seconds in the end, but nevertheless a podium for the 3-2-1 car. We'll wait to see them come out, Emil and Tom Drummond, who have done a good job to get that Supersport podium this weekend. De Borst had a 3rd in this category yesterday. Just looking through the other results, De Borst didn't really have a good first race, so this is their first win in this class of the weekend, and they've made it a good time to do just that. Likewise, Munkhoff and Braven getting themselves onto the podium for the first time this weekend. And Drummond, who had just head out there, Emil and Tom Drummond, we saw them on the podium in the first race of the weekend. So getting back on the podium. It's been a real competitive class, actually, Supersport. Pretty much most of the drivers across the field have all had a step on the podium this weekend. So I think this could be arguably the most exciting one to watch this season, because it is very, very close, and all the drivers have shown they're able to get podiums. Oscar Greper and Van Riet sadly retired from the race, but if not, they would have played a part in this battle, and no doubt about that. So I'm sure they'll get their opportunity to do so throughout the season. But a well done to the Supersport drivers, all finishing up there on the podium in this one. Got the 2 BMWs, the Hyundai and the BMWs. Hyundai taking the win on this occasion. And that's what's one of the great things to see about this category, is the Hyundai TCRs going against the BMW M2s and M4s. So 3 different cars on the podium in Supersport. Sport is going to be our final podium of the weekend, as we have now wrapped up the action here for the first round of the season, the first of 7 rounds in total, which will take us around Europe to some of the most classic racing circuits. And I think the calendar very much matches the championship there. It's a classic sports car championship, and we go to classic circuits in Zandvoort, Spa, Zolder, Assen and Hockenheim as well. A couple of trips to Zandvoort, a couple of trips to Assen. I think all very suitable tracks for the cars that we are in. Sports next. Rob Neiman, loved his car, I have to say. That Renault Clio. Played a little bit in that Supersport battle, didn't he? Has looked good this weekend. Martin Baggermans, this the only race. He's not been on the top step, and that's because Van den Broek and Voet able to take the podium. Bart Van den Broek and Chris Voet, the two drivers in the blue and white race suits, on the top step of the podium in their Alpine cars. Seem to find something today to just give them the edge over Martin Bagermans, who looked somewhat unbeatable at times, but that is why they are the reigning champions. They are able to pull it together when the big points are available, and the fight between them and Bagermans is going to be an interesting one to watch. I think that's going to be a close one that goes all the way to the line. One of the drivers a little bit eager to get away, and I think get a taste of the bubbly in front, but we've got to do some pictures before that, of course, on the top step. And now they do have the chance to go through and celebrate properly. You can tell they're not quite the same as the Mazda drivers who sprayed all their champagne everywhere. These guys want to take it home with them and celebrate in a different way. So that is the difference for you in the sport drivers. Okay, that's it for round one. Thanks very much for being with us. We've had Rene down in pit lane. I've been Chris McCarthy. Coverage brought to you by Alpha Live. We'll be back again for round two on the 29th to the 31st of May. Bye-bye.
Hartelijk dank ook aan alle officials van Officials Club Automobielsport en natuurlijk het team van V-Max Racing Events, die samen met de nieuwe chef aan de top, zal ik maar zeggen, Max Braams, weer een mooi weekend hebben neergezet.